There are around 7.5 billion people worldwide, 195 countries, 6 to 7,000 languages, and on average, a person speaks 1 to 2 languages. With this in mind, almost half of these languages are endangered and dying at fast rates. Although it is impossible for a person to learn 6 to 7,000 languages, not all are thriving in a way that are capable of being saved. As dominant languages such as Mandarin, English, and Spanish start rapidly replacing endangered languages, many communities are trying to fight to preserve their native language. However, those that do not have the resources to do so have to slowly watch them die out. Advocates in favor of funding programs towards language conservation would argue that the importance of saving a language goes further than just the language itself. It gives an insight into the life of an individual and what they have to offer to the world. One culture that is endangered and slowly trying to revive not only their language, but their culture is Cherokee. Spoken by about 15 to 20,000 people, this number continues to increase with the help of these programs, whereas if nothing is to be done, this number could drastically drop within the years. With the support of Heroes of Communication, investing the time and money towards preserving the Cherokee language at the expense of $500,000 budget would be seen as a smart investment by many. Without this language, we lose a piece of the world's knowledge on a way of thinking. The Cherokee language is a part of the world's unique differences and should be invested towards saving this particular branch of dialect due to the contribution it signifies towards the world's history, cultural identity, language diversity, and to help keep the number of Cherokee speakers growing. The Cherokee language is an important aspect to one's culture that deprived people of speaking their own language in the act of homogenizing Native American tribes. In 1839, the Cherokee Indians, along with other tribes, were driven out of their homeland known as the Trail of Tears. They were relocated east of the Mississippi River from Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama, North Carolina, and Florida to mineral land in Oklahoma. White settlers saw this land and wanted to utilize it for their own good for growing cotton. Without choice, innocent people were deprived of speaking their native language and instead forced to learn English. In an interview, a member of the Cherokee Indians, Jerry Wolf, shared his experience growing up as a first language learner.
We're not allowed to speak our language in school. We were banned from it. That come from the federal government. They had their ways of punishing us if we were caught speaking the language.
To be put in a situation where groups of people had no choice but to either accept this outcome or lose a part of their identity caused a huge impact to the culture and future of the tribes. Children were banned from speaking their native tongue in a classroom, and it became less accessible in their lifestyle as dominant languages took over. Although, according to an article of history, the goal of Civilization campaign was to make Native Americans as much like white Americans as possible by encouraging them to convert to Christianity, learn to speak and read English, and adopt European-style economic practices. Saving the Cherokee language is an important aspect that contributes to the individuality of the tribe. Even though we live in an English-speaking world, many families and cultures were stripped away of their history and felt misplaced in this world of change without choice. They no longer could practice their religion, prayers and songs that were spoken in this language slowly started to disappear, and education was a whole different learn. Although Cherokee is a difficult language to learn, the importance of saving this language is critical to this group because despite other endangered languages, Cherokee is actually a recorded language. Cherokee is a branch of the Cherokee language, which is the first Native American language that is spoken by about 15,000 people, either first or second language learners. The number of first language learners continue to decrease as ancestors die along with the knowledge they contain of this language. Cherokee language loses about 18 fluent speakers a year, yet are working towards gaining more speakers in and out of its community. Before the 1820s, Cherokee was only a spoken language. It was not until Sequoyah, a monolingual Cherokee farmer, invented a syllabary that consists of 85 characters compared to 26 in the English alphabet. He stated, "How many other traditions out there in the world that we'll never know about because no one recorded them before the language disappeared?" One reason the Cherokee language should be saved is because there are various ways to know the language actually exists and can be utilized as a form of communication. John McWhorter, a linguist, English teacher, and author of multiple books, stated, "If a language dies, a fascinating way of thinking dies along with it." The importance of knowing a second or even third language opens up the mind to different aspects of thinking, yet if a language dies, this intellectual thought will follow. With the help of Heroes of Communication, $500,000 could go a long way seeing how determined the people of Cherokee are committed in saving their own language. As of today, there are various programs in action working towards preserving this language. Cherokee is one language that has its community striving towards saving their language and requires a lot of commitment from the community as well as the help of this company. Cherokee, being one of the largest and well-known Native American tribe, would be tragic to have to watch a big part of this culture and history slowly fade away. Renissa Walker, a second language learner in charge of cultural preservation, stated in an interview by VOA News that
because we don't use the language in everyday living, because there isn't the transgenerational passing of the language down to children, those appropriate ways of Cherokee living are lost.
younger generations, a part of the Cherokee culture, are just recently learning the language of Cherokee, many of which their parents did not grow up learning. Tisalgi Sundel Saldi is a program to help establish and revitalize the language within children's education. Our mission is to promote the revitalization of the Cherokee language while educating children in a safe and cultural environment. Although it is one of the hardest languages to learn due to polysynthetic structure, these programs are to help start off the children young rather than learning it when they are older and becoming more difficult. With the help of preserving these endangered languages, cultures will be reborn one language at a time. If this language is lost, then a way of thinking is lost. Another program that is on its way to becoming a main factor in bringing back this language is the Cherokee Language Program. This consists of technology to help translate the languages to help make it easier for people to learn the language. One of the biggest programs that is for this language is a 10-year program called the Katawa Preservation and Education Program. This is to help preserve the language with the help of the Cherokee people. From the determination of the people living in a world where English is the dominant language, they are working towards bringing back what was once stripped away from them. If major companies such as Heroes of Communication invest in preserving the language of Cherokee, then they'll not only be saving the language, but it'll also be saving one's traditions, history, self-identity, and a way of thinking. According to research traveler and graduate student Katie O'Hare claims that I really like learning languages, so I spend a lot of the time with the people learning their language. The people in the village were really surprised that I even bother learning their language. They kept saying that Akka was useless and worthless, and that if you wanted a good life, that you needed to learn Thai. If you wanted a great life, you would learn English. Even though people's first choice is not to go out and learn a language on their free time, this Native American tribe is willing to put forth their time and determination on saving their language. Although we live in a world where English is becoming a dominant language, it's up to the people to figure out a balance in life between juggling two languages. It depends a lot on how people view the language, she says. If a language is viewed negatively, if people think that their language is not worth anything and that they're backwards for holding on to the language or that they're going against globalization, then people won't transmit their language to their children. A big factor in preserving this language is that if everyone is committed in saving the language within the community. If a group of people did not care about saving a language and were fine with letting dominant languages take over, then efforts and money put towards saving the language would not be effective. In this case, the Cherokee people try to adjust living in a world where English is a dominant language while also incorporating Cherokee into their life. Although we live in a world where English is a dominated language in the U.S. and is more accessible for jobs, traveling, interviews, TV, the internet, and more, learning this language does not take away the knowledge of knowing English, but rather as well as English. Cherokee should be saved because it contributes to each person's way of thinking and distinction between different cultures in the world. If everyone spoke the same language, practiced the same religion, and had the same lifestyle, then people wouldn't be interested in adventuring and exploring different parts of the world. In order to preserve this language, action must first start out at home. Even though English is more accessible for the everyday situations living in America, then second language learners must first figure out a way to combine their languages for a comfortable way of living. Having English become the dominant languages within schools does not necessarily take away the identity and cultures of the tribe if their beliefs and languages are also practiced at home. It is up to the elders and those willing to put in the time and effort to pass on its culture's history along with its language to help preserve the language. The language must be practiced at home as well as in the outside world. Because it is difficult to incorporate it in the everyday world, there must be commitment from everyone. According to the manager of Cherokee Language Preservation Program, the survey found that no one under 40 years of age was conversational in the language, that 52 out of 300 surveyed spoke the language in their homes, and most children of fluent speakers did not speak it at all. Only about 100 monolingual speakers of Cherokee are still living. However, increasing numbers of Cherokee descendants are renewing interest in the traditions, history, and language of their ancestors. Although it is impossible for a single person to learn 6,000 to 7,000 languages, in order to help save and revitalize endangered languages, we must first start with one language at a time. With having about 15,000 fluent speakers in the Cherokee language and rapidly increasing due to the commitment and hope of the community, the people of the tribe will not have to see their language die out if they keep up the programs and energy they have for this movement. With the help of heroes of communication interested in preserving the Cherokee language at the expense of $500,000 budget is seen as a very smart investment towards many. The Cherokee language is a part of the world's unique differences and should be invested towards saving this particular branch of dialect due to the contribution it signifies towards the world's history, cultural identity, language diversity, and to help keep the number of Cherokee speakers growing. With this community being stripped of their culture and language without choice, they are slowly but surely making their way to saving their language. The Cherokee people have a lot at stake if this language dies. Not only will it be saving a way of communication, but a way to connect individuals through music, festivals, religion, and their culture. This language should not be left alone to die when the last Cherokee-speaking elders die off with the language. It is important to both the individual and history of America to keep the language alive.